What's up, guys? So in this video we are going to talk about responsive design. In case you didn't watch the previous videos, this was the site that we were working with. I did a few changes to get us prepared for the responsive design. So we go from this to this. Now all I did is I messed with the styles for the image, which we will see in a bit, and then I put the images beneath each other. I turned the table into an image so that we can see what it looks like to change the layout of our site based on screen size. So more on that later. And what I also did is I went into the HTML and finally took all of the styles here at the top and put them in an external style sheet, which simply means the styles are in their own sheet by themselves. And then in the HTML document, instead of having the styles embedded, there's just a link to the style sheet. So right here in the head it says link relationship is style sheet, and then href styles.css. So this is pointing to the styles.css document where all of our styles are housed. As far as the image, I changed it from what we see here to filling out the entire header here. Is I added the image selector and put a max width of 100%, and the width and height are auto. Okay, so now let's talk about responsive design. So with responsive design, what we're talking about is the ability to render websites on different screen sizes where the website is responding to that screen size. Because if we think about it, a big website or even something like this may not look that great on a small screen. So if I make this even smaller, now since I have the max with 100%, the logo up here may look okay, but we may notice that the text is kind of big if we were looking at a cell phone or whatnot, and we want to make it look just as nice on smaller screens as we do the very large screens. If this was on a large screen, for example, you don't want to see all this empty space on either side. Responsive design also allows us to specify different CSS style rules for some or all of our elements depending on a screen or browser size, based on a few basic techniques. Sizing with percentages, very important. Identifying our breaking point. At what point or at what screen size does our site no longer look nice? And by creating multi-part media queries. So let's dive into our CSS styles and see what that would look like. I'm going to go down here and above my print styles here, and I'm just showing you an example at this point, I would type in at media screen, and then in parentheses I would put min-width colon space 880px, close the parenthesis, and then start my rule. So what I'm doing here in this selector is I'm saying it to look at the screen, and then if the screen is at least 880 pixels wide, do the following. The and means both have to be true in order to apply these elements. Or would mean one or the other. If we were saying not instead of and, that would be false. The most common media screen features we see are min width or max width. So let's actually give this a try. I'm going to add to the rule here that we already created, but before we keep going, I'm going to first put a label above it just so that it's easy to find these rules. And this is going to be my small screen styles. There we go. And then for my at media screen, let's go ahead and first tackle the smaller screens. We're going to change this 880 to 460. So if the screen size is at least 460, do this. Now here's where it gets interesting. We're going to actually embed style rules within this one style rule. And you may be saying, what? Let me show you how that works. So we're going to put in article. That's right, another selector. And then we're going to put in more curly brackets. So this is where our embedded style rule comes in. I'm going to open that up. And then for our article, we're saying that when the screen size is at least 460, we want to have a padding of 2%. And then a semicolon. And that's all that we're going to do with for our article in this one. And then let's do one for our figure, which is that YouTube picture from our previous video. Let's open that up and put in a border. Let's go 1 pixel space solid, so solid line, and then for the color, just go simple, the CCC. Let's also add a padding here of 2%. Oh, forgot the semicolon. And a box shadow of 0, 10 pixels. Remember, no commas between these, just spaces. 6 pixels, -6 pixels, and then we put the color last. And one more for this declaration. Let's put a display inline block. Looks good for a figure. Just wait. I know that you're anxious to see what happens. Let's add up one for our section. Here we're just going to text align center. Go. And then for our last one, let's put a selector of section H3 and comma, which means or, section paragraph. So we're going to apply it to both of these. And with this one, we're going to text align left. Don't forget the semicolon. And then make sure, since this is a multi-part media query with embedded styles, you want to make sure you have your opening bracket at the beginning after your at media screen selector, and then a closing bracket, and then each individual style in here, so our article, our figure, our section, and our section H3 and section P should also have their own opening and closing as well, which they do here. So there we go. Now before we go and test it out, I did just notice one thing. Up here in media screen, I accidentally forgot that space. Very important, makes the world a difference. Okay, so now that we have our style built the way we want it, let's watch the magic happen. I'm gonna click on my index 2 and then run. And look, right away you should see something different. I put a background in to make it very obvious what happened. So before, we didn't see this background show up, and now we do. This is that 2% coming in, because at a width of 460 or greater, the article element has that 2% padding, which is making this background visible. We'll also notice that the figure element, look here, it's centered now, and it has a box shadow where it didn't before. And same with this figure here. Now let's shrink this and see what happens when it gets less than 460. Ooh, keep going, keep going. Did you see it? Over 460? Less than 460. What it did is it removed the background, and then our images no longer have that box shadow. And that's because we were condensing the space because of the smaller screen size. Let's take a look at our styles again to see how that's happening. So see here, article, padding of 2% if the width is at least 460. So that's where that background is coming in. The figure, we added a border if the size is at least 460. And we centered the text. Pretty neat, right? Our site is responding to the size of the screen of the user. Now, I know this is a tough subject, so let's try a couple more media queries, and I think it will really shed some light on it for you. So we're going to jump back into our styles here, and this time, let's add one for our standard screen sizes. So that's typical screen size we'll see on a larger laptop or desktop computer. So this would be our standard screen styles. And let's see how this one will work. We're going to type in the at media screen again. Don't forget the space. And we're saying that it has for screen sizes with a min width of 880 pixels. Close that in parentheses. So we have our opening and closing bracket here, and now I'm going to type some rules. Here we're going to have the heading 3 do something different. We're going to have it float to the left. This is so that the figure can wrap when the screen size is a little bigger. And then let's go ahead and apply some styles to our figure. Here we're going to float right. We're going to do a max width of 50%, and we're going to do a margin of 2%. There's where the percents come in. Remember, responsive design and percents are best friends. 0, 2%, and 2%. And also remember, margins do not have commas, just spaces. This represents each side. And with the max with the 50%, what that's going to do is it will allow for a creation of a second column because of the figure will be a max of half of the screen, which we wouldn't want if it's a smaller screen size, right? Then let's apply some additional styles to our section. We're going to put a padding just on the bottom, so padding hyphen bottom of 2%. And then lastly, we're going to apply a style to our class of top link, that button that says return to top, and we're going to make it go right. We're going to have the right be auto and the left be 0. This will move that button to the right. And then that's it. So now that we have our styles built, let's save it. Now note, because this is a min width of 880 pixels, these styles will still apply. So if it's at least 460, it will apply these, and if it's at least 880, it will apply these, which means if it's at least 880, it will apply these and these. So it's not one or the other. Let's run it and see what it looks like. And since this was for 880, I am going to have to make this bigger for us to see that happen. So I'm going to make it size of my screen here. And it didn't quite do it, and I believe it's because my laptop screen is not quite 880. So I'm going to go back into my styles here and change this to 800. Save it, and then let's go in and refresh. Okay, and you see what happened? Notice that the pictures, instead of being underneath, have now moved over. So that's that second column idea that we were talking about. So because of the screen size, it's moving the figures or the images over to the right, and it's putting the button over here to the left. That's where that 0 came in, and we see it applied to both, which looks great. And we could keep doing this. We could add styles for a larger screen and then make it to where it's 3 columns. All the possibilities. That's what's great about HTML and CSS and the ability for us to control the styles depending on the screen size. Chrome has some great tools to help you determine screen size. So does Dreamweaver. In Chrome, it's called the emulator. I'm going to add a video to our playlist that will show what that's about. Dreamweaver also has a feature that you can select the screen size that your website is being viewed in so that you can immediately see what the site would look like and add additional style rules accordingly to make it look nice for that specific size. So that's going to do it for this video. Watch out for the next video. We're going to talk about creating responsive navigation. And that's it. I will catch you later.